Is reporting that three-point specialist Wayne Ellington has cleared waivers and will officially sign with the Detroit Pistons. Ellington was brought out by the Suns earlier this week. Tuesday night is for what, guys?
Players only.
Right, on TNT. Looks like there will be some furniture moving in the East.
Ooh,
Celtics, 76ers, currently identical records, would face each other in the first round if the playoffs started today. The nightcap features your two-time defending champions, that's all, the Warriors and the Utah
neighborhood
Jazz.
is Philly where I can't go. I'll be there, baby.
Is that DeMar DeRozan and Donovan Mitchell? That's
yes,
I
it is.
feel like they can say that.
Yes, they can.
DeRozan for the jumper.
I like what you did there.
Cash.
Spurs take the lead early. They've been struggling on this rodeo road trip. LaMarcus Aldridge looking good here, just 15 and 10 for him. I say just 15 and 10 because they pretty much need 20 out of him to get the win.
Yes, each night you need him to play like an all-star. As Rubio with the vision with the reverse.
Good to see him back.
Davis Bertans.
Oh, get that shot out of here.
Playing some defense. And then on the other end.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he does.
Good block
Knocking
and
it down.
stop and pop.
Spurs looking good. I see what you did, little
You like
stop
that?
and
Okay.
pop.
All right.
The Stifle
Okay.
Tower.
Let's see if you're paying
Cleaning
attention.
up the mess.
We call it Saturday Night Fever, baby.
Ooh, Rudy Gobert.
Ooh, Nerf hoop, yes. Oh, my goodness.
How about Donovan Mitchell? Since January 5th, averaging 27 points a game.
You know the difference? He has shot makers out there and giving him that real estate he needs to be aggressive.
And then Rubio.
Oh, no. Did he see the rim? What? Wait a minute. Nerf hoop.
I think he wanted to be an all-star, fellas.
Yes, he did.
No.
Did he try to dunk on him?
What does that count as?
Still two.
Still two.
Still two. It looked like more, though.
Not a Diesel Dunks nominee, though. That's what we take it out of.
Yeah, Shaq don't like those.
But I think you guys see the theme of the Jazz pulling away. 29 assists. A lot of sharing and caring.
He is mad at the rim.
Rudy Gobert, 21 points, 13 rebounds. The Utah Jazz, you see that 125-point mark?
That's a lot.
The San Antonio Spurs, they've given up 125 points in their last 4 games. They've lost each of those. Here's Greg Popovich following this loss.
Utah had a big advantage on the boards in the paint tonight. Talk about that from the coach.
Well, you're correct.
How did they get that big advantage on it?
They jumped higher. They were more physical. You know, you're asking me things that are tough to answer.
How do you keep the guys?
It's like saying, why did you not shoot well? Because they didn't go in.
With the injuries and the losing streak, how do you keep the guys' heads up and moving forward?
It's our job. You just go play the next game. There's no time for sulking or anything like that. You know, Utah played better than we did. They executed better, and they made fewer mistakes over a 48-minute stretch, and they won the game. You know, the team that plays best wins.
Is there anything going on with the second quarter, guys? Golden State had the last 3 minutes, Portland got 39. Tonight, Utah did 39 too.
Not necessarily.
And I was talking earlier about how going through this stretch, it's important to keep guys camaraderie and keep guys tight. How important do you think that is to make sure the group in there is still upbeat?
I would think it's important.
How important?
As opposed to the opposite.
That's true.
That's silly. Come on. It's always important to be upbeat and to stick together.
Oh, during this rough time.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Losing Rudy before the game, was that kind of a deep play?
It doesn't matter who's hurt or who didn't play. Nobody cares about that. All they care about is winning and losing. So Utah deserved the game. They played better. They executed better than we did. They were more physical than we did, and they won the game.
You expect him back in Memphis?
I don't know.
May I ask you
Sure.
about Jakob Poeltl? How would you describe his development?
He's doing a fine job. He's learning on the fly. He needs experience, but we're trying to give him the minutes so that he can get more and more comfortable. But he's very willing, very intelligent, and he's going to end up being a good player.
So, Pop, not in a good mood, and maybe that's because this rodeo road trip has not started very well for them.
That's pop, 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 pop.
4 times.
That's 4 pops.
Yeah, 4 losses in a row. They got one
You know
more
what comes next,
before-
right? Fizz. That means more losses.
Then they got 3 after the All-Star break. So the Spurs also sliding in the Western Conference standings. This game significant because the Utah Jazz now have a game up on San Antonio. But one thing that Utah did in this particular game that they aren't very great at this season, shooting the outside shot. They're 24th in the league percentage-wise from outside, but they hit 19 three-pointers against the Spurs.
Tonight, excellent ball movement, and you talked about earlier where Donovan Mitchell is starting to find his stride. For me, Karan, where Donovan Mitchell had such a good year and it kind of surprised people. So now those great assistant coaches we always talk about, they have all these computers and laptops on the bench, well, they went home and put a defensive game plan for Donovan Mitchell. So it's taken him a couple months to say, okay, the double team's coming this way. When I drive right, they'll send an extra big guy to show this. So now his patience, this last month or two for me, is showing me that he's starting to watch more film and he's starting to find his groove.
And also, I think the addition of Kyle Korver, having a shot maker like that, Ingles starting to make shots and being more aggressive on the perimeter. So when those shots fall, instead of gapping him, now you're able to have more real estate. So when them shots fall right there, you got to stay honest on the defensive end of the floor. And then it creates more options and opportunities for Donovan Mitchell, where he's able to pass, facilitate. And then when he gets to going downhill and zigzagging with the basketball, he's able to be creative. He can go for shots for himself, or obviously he can go and facilitate for others.
Certainly the floor seems like it's opened up when the Utah Jazz are hitting outside shots. They seem like a team you can really trust in the postseason. But Rudy Gobert, playing with a vengeance, he seems like a guy that's like, oh, I wasn't selected for the All-Star team. Got a little bit of slack for crying in that emotional moment for him. But we're seeing him show some of those emotions on the court in an efficient way.
Yeah, Rudy, don't feel bad. Either show that you're emotion, that you're a human being. We all have them. But offensively this year, to picking and rolling to the basket, getting more alley-oops. And every so often this year, they'll throw the ball down to him in the block, and he'll make a good move and get a basket. That evolution of him being on the offensive end, I think, is going to help as they try to go deeper into the playoffs.
Well, I love the bounce-back game of Rudy Gobert. Some people cry about situations. Some people respond. He did a little bit of both. He shared his emotions out, and then he went out there and pulled out a demonstration, and I think that's going to be his motivation going forward. So he's playing excellent basketball offensively, which you talked about. Defensively, he's been that anchor, but now they're rewarding him on the opposing end also, and that's keeping him excited and engaged.
Yeah, we spoke about the Spurs' current road trip and how difficult it is. Well, counting today's game against San Antonio, the Jazz are in the midst of a 7-game span in which 6 of their opponents are currently playoff bound. Certainly, they have some strong competition coming up next.
You think?
Woo!
Ooh, Clyde!
Frazier.
He got old school drip.
Hey, give me that curtain.
You better get Grandma hurt.
He's been referencing 77 people. Clippers were very active at the trade deadline, moving their leading scorer and their starting shooting guard. The Celtics, well, they didn't make any deals this week. With that, let's welcome in Boston Globe national NBA writer Gary Washburn. Gary, with the 2 teams on top of the East making moves, why did the Celtics not make any deals?
I think they felt very comfortable with the current roster. And guys who had struggled early in the season, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, are starting to play better. And they feel like they had won before the Laker game 10 of 11, so it's now 10 of 12. They've been on a pretty good run. And they feel like, you know what, with this team that we have the talent, we have the depth, we can make a run as we are. We don't need to shake things up. And some of their best players who might be imprinting free agents, a Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, are contributors. So you don't want to move those guys. So their options were rather limited, and then they also just felt like their depth was good enough to make a prolonged run.
Well, Danny Ainge also said that the Kyrie Irving situation is like an engagement until the teams are officially married on July 1st. But it sounds like, well, that ring, no, it sounds like Kyrie is still trying to play the field a bit. How much does this team's success the rest of the season and the playoffs factor into Kyrie's decision to stay in Boston in the summer?
I think it's very important this team make a deep playoff run to convince Kyrie not to flirt with other teams. But I still wouldn't be surprised if he did, visit New York and talk with the Knicks and the Nets, and maybe visit Los Angeles if they're interested, and maybe other teams with the salary cap space for a max deal. I think he wants to keep his options open, but I think he still enjoys Boston. I don't think he's unhappy in Boston. I think last week, the interview in New York, I think he was unhappy that his name was kind of dragged into the Anthony Davis situation, and he kind of has kept quiet about his situation since October. So I think that irked him more than just being unhappy in Boston or disappointed that they've had kind of a bumpy road. I think he was just upset at his name being dragged in that situation in the first place.
Keeping with the theme of the Celtics and relationships, look, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward seem like they're pretty tight, and Hayward has not scored over 10 points in back-to-back games since mid-January. We know about his gruesome injury. Is his lack of production hurting his team's chemistry and also Kyrie's situation?
I don't think it's hurting Kyrie's situation. I think Brad Stevens has been extremely patient with Hayward and will continue to be. And I think there's signs that he's coming back. It's a mental thing. I mean, if you play basketball for 25 years every day of your life, and then suddenly you can't play for a year, and then you're asked to jump on a court with the world's best players, the world's best athletes, that's hard. And I think that this transition for Hayward has been difficult, but I think he's making strides. And I think this team truly believes that the Hayward in April and May will be much better and much more confident, I would say, than the one who's in February. And so they're seeing signs. I don't think it's doing anything with the team chemistry. It has affected playing time, but you've got to let him play. You can't bench him. He's not going to get better on the bench looking at the game. Like, he's got to experience these things. He's got to go through it, and he's got to get better.
Certainly, team chemistry, never an easy thing to figure out. Gary Washburn, national NBA writer for the Boston Globe, thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Look, the Celtics offensively, they've been doing well as you see them. Their offensive rating going up as the season progresses, and it seems like they have a rhythm right now. Karan, when you look at this lineup and the fact that they didn't make any deals at the trade deadline, how much you think is this chemistry in their offense as a part of that?
Well, I think they're starting to, come together. And I think most of the reason why they're coming together because of the play of Kyrie Irving. And I think guys are starting to fall in order from a vertical standpoint, understanding the pecking order, understanding that he's going to be the guy that leads us there, trying to insert Gordon Hayward as much as possible. And I think the young guys are buying into that. So, moving forward, they have to continue to do that, and I think it's going to be a work in progress. But also, I think Gordon Hayward coming around, getting his legs up under him. I saw a hard foul by JaVale McGee when he got hit. I was just like, okay, he's able to take the contact in those situations, so that's a welcoming sign for the Boston Celtics.
3D, are they going to regret not making a deal at the trade deadline if you look at the top of the Eastern Conference, and it seems like a lot of these other teams got better as they look to make this postseason push?
Well, knowing Danny, the way he's been patient the last couple of years, knowing he has so many assets. So not making a move was really making a move because Gordon Hayward and Kyrie were hurt. So now they got hurt beginning of the year, beginning of the playoffs. So this young team, to Gary Washburn's point, grew and learned on the fly. And now you're adding two all-stars, which Kyrie, to his point, is getting his rhythm. Gordon still hadn't got his total rhythm back. So now that's basically adding two new players to a young team that really gained so much experience getting all the way to the Eastern Conference Final. So why bring in somebody totally brand new to try to insert them and learn the chemistry and the flow and where the bodies are buried, as we like to say. And now as Gordon Hayward gets 100%, that's still another level and still another talent that we still haven't tapped into yet. And I think that's why Danny stayed so patient.
One of the things that still jump out at me when you're talking about Danny Ainge and talking about the marriage between him and Kyrie and that being an engagement situation, what we need to pay close attention to is how you treated your last bride, Isaiah Thomas, runaway bride situation. And I think that it's going to be a long process, but that's something that a lot of people are thinking about, just that connection and that experience, and that plays into the free agency going forward.
Anthony Davis's dad said as much, so certainly a lot to see there as far as the Celtics and how they're going to handle this Kyrie Irving situation. ESPN is reporting that three-point specialist Wayne Ellington has cleared waivers and will officially sign with the Pistons. Ellington was brought out by the Suns earlier this week. Last season, he hit a career-high 227 three-pointers for the Miami Heat.
Make it Wayne.
Good signing right there.
Make it Wayne, baby.
Speaking of heating up from outside, Donovan Mitchell. Left alone, bad idea. Do not go under the screen on him. Jazz rolling over the Spurs right now.
Shoes?
It's the shot.
Oh, okay.